Hello students, welcome to Mr. B's science class.
I finally got stuck out of that chimney.
Napoleon Bonaparte, what are you doing here?
Got any eggnog?
You're such a bonehead, get out of here. Alright students, today we're going to be talking about the water cycle. Water cycle. So, some people consider this to be the circle of life. So, we'll start off with Pride Rock. No, I'm just kidding. There's no Pride Rock. But there is a cycle, and it basically is a continuous circle involving water. Okay, MS-ESS2-4 is where we'll learn to develop a model to describe the cycling of water through Earth's systems driven by energy from the sun and the force of gravity. So develop a model to describe the cycling of water through Earth's systems driven by energy from the sun and the force of gravity. Next, I'm going to give you the 3 essential questions. Okay, essential question number 1. How does water continually cycle between land, oceans, and the Earth's atmosphere? Okay, again, essential question number 1. How does water continually cycle between land, oceans, and atmosphere? Essential question number 2. What forms does water take through this cycle? Okay, number 2. What forms does water take through this cycle? How is the water cycle affected by the sun and gravity? Okay, our learning objective. So it's tied in with all 3 of our essential questions. So we got to make sure that we use our objective is we're going to be able to learn how to illustrate this model and then describe the different forms that water takes and the steps of the cycle, and also be able to explain how the sun and gravity, are a part of this cycle. That's our learning objective. Okay, let's get to the cycle. Okay, let's begin. The water cycle. Okay, this is also referred to as hydraulic cycle. So you're thinking hydraulic cycle. Hydro. Water. Hydraulic cycle. For most part, you guys are just going to hear the water cycle. Okay, so this is the process by which water circulates between the Earth's oceans, land, and atmosphere. Earth, oceans, land, and atmosphere. Oceans, land, and atmosphere. Okay. All right, this process involves water storage, precipitation, runoff, transpiration, evaporation, and condensation. So those are some of the very basic terms that we're going to be. Our water storage up here in the atmosphere, that superhighway of water storage, and also 96% of the world's water is stored in oceans. So precipitation, coming down from the clouds, this can be multiple forms. This could be water, sleet, snow, hail. Then we have runoff coming off of the mountains, hills, down to our rivers and streams, and flowing into our ocean. Then transpiration is where we're releasing this moisture from plants, animals, back into the Earth's atmosphere, which is also associated with evaporation, where a large chunk of it here, the bulk of it, is coming from the ocean, where we're evaporating this water using the energy from the sun. It's going up into our atmosphere. Then the atmosphere it will condense, condensation, to form clouds. Then it comes back here, clouds, in the form of precipitation. Evaporation. It's probably off the screen. Okay, so we got our cycle here. Precipitation, runoff, going into our streams, into the ocean. Sun's energy is allowing for the evaporation. Gets up here in our atmosphere, condenses, condensation, forms clouds, and we continually making this loop. So, anybody notice the thing that I forgot to speak about? Gravity. Where does this roll? What role does gravity play in this? What force? Our force of gravity. So, where is it in this cycle? Pretty sure it's playing a part in our precipitation and our runoff flowing down the hill to the ocean. Okay, let's go more in depth. We're going to break down precipitation, evaporation. We'll talk a little bit about transpiration also, condensation, water storage, and runoff. Okay, now we're going to talk about evaporation. So this is the process by which we get water in the liquid form back into the gas form as water vapor. So again, with evaporation, and we've got our beautiful sun here. So we're using this energy from the sun. This energy from the sun comes down and it breaks the bonds of the water molecules so they can evaporate back up into the atmosphere. So that's the link between the sun and the water cycle. We're using that energy to break the water bonds, change it from the liquid phase to the gaseous phase, water vapor. So another term, evaporation, that we're going to cover is evapotranspiration and transpiration. See how we got the term evapo there? So evapotranspiration is a process by which water is lost to the atmosphere from the ground, and transpiration is where water is lost from plant leaves to the atmosphere. From our plant leaf, and we got our big chunk of ground here. So, when the water is being lost to the atmosphere from the ground, that's the evapotranspiration process. Where the water is being lost from the plant leaves, plants, that's transpiration. Okay, we had evaporation up into our atmosphere. So this atmosphere is actually a huge superhighway for transport of water throughout our whole globe. And because it is a superhighway, it is also a large area of water storage. So up in the atmosphere, we're changing from water vapor, the gaseous phase, back into the liquid phase. So gas, water, vapor, so we're going back from a gas to a liquid. This process is called condensation. Condensation is where we have a loss of energy that's allowing these water molecules to bond back together. So, condensation. Here, right here, condense. And now we're going to have gravity jump in and give us a little bit of help. So, condensation. We got into these clouds. What comes next? Got to get it out of the clouds. That's right, precipitation. Okay, precipitation. Precipitation. So this is the delivery process of getting liquid water back to the earth. So this water can precipitate, come back down to the earth using the force of gravity, help pulling it down. It can actually be in multiple forms. It can be in rain, sleet, snow, hail. Those are the four basic ones. So it comes back down, to the surface of the earth here. And then, again, gravity is playing its role. We're going to have what is called runoff. That's this water on these mountains, hills, and surfaces running back down into our oceans, rivers, lakes, and then making their way to the ocean. So it gets back to the ocean, and we start our cycle again. So this runoff, when it's precipitating back down to the earth actually is another part of the water storage cycle. You're like, how are we going to store water on Earth? Okay, glaciers, snow. So high up in the mountains, you may have a glacier, ice and snow, storing water there. Snow that remains up high up in the mountains, we're storing water there. And you can also have water which can infiltrate down into the ground and sit down under there as groundwater. You may hear that term when they're talking about how much water we have available to drink, or somebody's drilling a well. We're tapping down into that groundwater and then pulling it up for our use. But these three are also water storage examples. So snow up on top of mountains, a glacier, and the groundwater. We are gonna have a lot of fun getting those into our vocabulary cards. And I got a feeling I am gonna have a great Kahoot quiz for you guys to work off of to make sure we learn those terms. So, quick review. 3 essential questions. How does water continually cycle among land, oceans, and atmosphere? This cycle, land, oceans, atmosphere. I just talked about it real quick there. What forms does water take through this? A solid, liquid, gas, water vapor, precipitation, back into the liquid form. Okay. In the water cycle, how is it affected by energy from the sun and the force of gravity? Just did a quick review of that also. So, take some time, reflect on this. Look forward to seeing you guys in class.